30. So watching out for anger and resentments, page 36. The book is Living Sober. Type that up and put a link to it up there. And if you want to read, how long is it? How many pages on it?
It is not too long. It's 36 to 39.
Let those people in, Ron. Okay, so go ahead, Jeff. You want to start reading?
Yeah.
And raise your hand if you want to read. See my hand? Look at this. If you have the book, we want you to read from the book. And are you putting a link up? She's putting a link
I
up.
thought Sam was linking, but I'll do it. Yeah.
No, Sam is like petting his cat.
Okay. I'll get it up there.
All right.
I'm right
Okay,
here.
let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Go ahead. Jeff, where's Jeff? You muted yourself, Jeff. Jeff, there you go, buddy. You have to unmute yourself.
Mute. Jeff,
Okay.
Alcoholics, South Florida. Okay.
Yep.
Page 37, Living Sober. Chapter 15, Watching Out for Anger and Resentments. Anger has already been touched on in this booklet, but some rough experiences have convinced us it is so important it deserves special attention from anyone wanting to get over a drinking problem. Hostility, resentment, anger, whatever word you use to describe this feeling, seems to have a close tie-up with intoxication and maybe even a deeper one with alcoholism. For instance, some scientists once asked a large number of alcoholics, men, why they got drunk, and found an important answer was, so I can tell everybody off. In other words, they felt the power and the freedom while drunk to express anger that they could not comfortably display when sober. Someone has suggested there may be a subtle, undetermined biochemical relationship between alcohol and the kind of body changes that accompany anger. One experimental study of alcoholics suggested that resentments may create in the blood of alcoholics a certain uncomfortable condition that is cleared up by a binge. A top psychologist has recently suggested that drinkers may enjoy feelings of power over others that the influence of alcohol can bring. Facts have been reported about the close correlation between drinking and assaults and homicides. It seems a large proportion of those in some countries happen when either the victim or the perpetrator, or both, is under the influence of alcohol. Rapes, domestic squabbles leading to divorce, child abuse, and armed robbery are also frequently laid at the doorstep of excessive drinking. Even those of us who had no experience with such behavior can easily understand the kind of fierce rage which might lead some people to think of such violence when they are tight enough. So we recognize the potential danger in anger.
Okay, how about you, Sam? You want to read? Where is he? This is Beach Blanket Bingo. Go, Sam. You're up.
I'm right here. Thank you,
Okay.
Jann. Hello, everyone. Sam, grateful alcoholic. See where we are. Living Sober, page 38, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
There's
Yep.
there seems a little doubt. 37.
37 still there. Okay.
There seems a little
Seems
doubt.
I
Fourth
see. I
paragraph
see. I
down.
see. Thank you. I got it. There seems little doubt that it is a natural state to occur in the human animal from time to time, like fear. It may well have some survival value for all members of species Homo sapiens. Anger toward abstractions such as poverty, hunger, illness, and injustice have no doubt produced changes for the better in various cultures. But there's also no denying that mayhem and even verbal assaults committed in excesses of anger are deplorable and do damage to society as a whole, as well as to individuals. Therefore, many religions and philosophers urge us to get rid of anger in order to find a happier life. Yet, a great number of people are certain that bottling up anger is very bad for emotional health, that we should get our hostility out in some way or it will poison our insides by turning inward toward ourselves, thus leading to deep depression. Anger in all its aspects is a universal human problem, but it poses a special threat to alcoholics. Our own anger can kill us. Recovered alcoholics unanimously agree that hostility, grudges, or resentments often make us want to drink. So we need to be vigilant against such feelings. We have found much more satisfying ways than drinking for dealing with them. But we'll get to those later. First, here's a
There.
look at.
Okay, stop right there. Okay, Sarah, well, how about you? Go right ahead, pick it up, friend, then read the whole list slowly. Yep, go. She-
First, here's a look at some of the shapes and colors anger seems at times to arrive in. Intolerance, contempt. Should I read across? Doesn't matter. Okay.
Just read down.
Intolerance, contempt, envy, hatred, snobbishness, rigidity,
It's
cynicism,
rigidity. Yeah,
rigidity, my bad.
it's all right.
Cynicism, discontent, tension, sarcasm, self-pity, malice, distrust, anxiety, suspicion, and jealousy.
But let's
Various
stop right
AA
there
members.
for a minute, okay? So I want to talk about this. Do you notice in this chapter, especially the paragraph about this page that Jeff and Sam wrote? I mean, they go right into mayhem, murder, behavior, and AA talks little about this kind of behavior, but it's really true. You know, if you look at statistics of people who are in prison and jail, um, they're it's always related to alcohol, uh, alcohol induced behavior and well, and or drugs, but a lot of it is alcohol. And I mean, all of it, crime, violence, generally orchestrated or set loose by people's drinking, and every other sort of horrible crime. And we don't talk about it a lot in AA. I mean, they really laid it out here. But what happens is it makes people uncomfortable to talk about. I mean, I think men can talk about it in men's meetings, women can talk about it in women's meetings, but personal violence is rarely talked about in AA meetings, and it probably should be more because a lot of people sober up. Okay, they sober up and then they continue to act out, lying, cheating, stealing, and behaving, violently. Now, I've seen it a lot in my 47 years in AA. So let's go over. I want to ask Chaz, your experience. Have you seen a lot of violence in your 30 years sober? I mean, about with other people acting out. Can't hear you. You got to shout it out.
Hi, Shaz, a very grateful alcoholic. I've only really experienced, I mean, in the meetings, there's a few odd things go on, but definitely in Sydney, in New South Wales by itself, most of the really violent crimes are drug related, and it's all related to alcohol as well. We have drive-by shootings now and stuff like that, and it's all fueled by alcohol. Oh, and
Enough, Jeff. So you've been going to meetings for a long time. Do you see people carrying on with that behavior?
Yeah, Jeff, alcoholic. Yes, I've heard about some real, I mean, the crimes I've heard about in my time, and things that have happened. Somebody who got a lot of people sober spent 10 years in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, in New York City. He walked into a bar and blew a woman's head off, had a beef with her. Uniformed policeman. He became,
All right. I will tell you guys,
then
listen,
he
I
spent
will tell
thousands
you.
of people. He got sober after that, though. When he
I
after
will tell you, in this meeting, we have people that come here, they're in the courts because of domestic violence. They're acting out. Sometimes they're acting out um, at home. This meeting, people are so new. I mean, we've had, men who come in, and they're still acting out at home. They end up in jail, or they have bracelets on, they have ankle bracelets. They're in a lot of trouble. And we have women who are in this meeting who have former husbands or former partners who beat them up and hurt them currently. I mean, this isn't like, oh, it happened 10 years ago. I'm talking about This violent behavior goes on a daily basis. We see it in this meeting on a daily basis. All you have to do is get to know people in here, and you're shaking your head, Sarah. So you want to talk about this?
Yeah, when I did the, where you write down the incidences, you go back, step one, part two. I realized how many of those incidences were violent. Um, uh, Mostly with my ex, alcohol was involved every single time, and every incident got worse. It started with gentle pushing, and then it got to choking, and all these, and every single one was alcohol induced on both of our parts, actually. But I didn't
Mhm.
really get physical like that.
Yeah, there it is. There it is right there, what Sarah's saying. This isn't theoretical. This isn't like, oh, it happened 10 years ago, or me, no, it happened now. So this chapter addresses this. And so one of the things we have to do is we have to look at it in our own life. Is there violence in my life? And what can I do to end violence in my home, in my own sobriety, in my life? I mean, we have several members in this group who are experiencing violence on a daily basis, and they have to get protected by the police, or they have to move, change the phone numbers, change their address, just to stay alive. So that's alcoholism. That's what we see in AA. And I won't even bring up all the other types of violence that go on, but we know what it is, from from pushing, shoving, hitting, rape, incest, all of it. It's, and we're the people that do it. Alcoholics do it. I'm not saying everybody in this meeting, but it's that's what Bill's writing about here in this particular chapter. Okay. So, all right. Hey, Kim, did you want to read? Are you sober enough to read? Go ahead. Top of the next page, 38.
All right. Can be alcoholic. Various AA members have, when sober, been able to trace all those feelings to some underlying anger. During our drinking days, many of us spent little time thinking such things out. We were more likely to brood about them or to overreact, especially after we heightened such feelings by taking another drink. Perhaps fear should be on that list too, because many of us believe anger is frequently an outgrowth of fear. We're not always sure what we're afraid of. Sometimes it is just a vague, generalized, nameless fear. And it can give rise to an equally generalized anger, which may suddenly focus on something or someone. Feelings of frustration might have give birth to anger. As a class, problem drinkers are not famous for a high tolerance level when faced with frustration, real or imaginary. A drink used to be our favorite solvent, for such an indigestible emotion.
If you would. Go ahead, Sam. Did you read yet? Go ahead. You already did read, didn't you? How about Ron? Go
I
ahead,
did,
Ron.
yes.
Perhaps justifiable.
I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. Perhaps justifiable resentment is the trickiest of all to handle. It's the end product of righteous anger after long cherishing, and if it is allowed to continue, it will slowly undermine our defenses against taking a drink. Even if we actually have been treated shabbily or unjustly, resentment is a luxury that, as alcoholics, we cannot afford. For us, all anger is self-destructive because it can lead us back to drinking. Learning to deal with resentments is discussed in more detail in the books Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. We cannot pretend to be experts at understanding depth psychology, so we have to concentrate at first not on searching for the causes of uncomfortable feelings of anger, but on coping with feelings themselves, whether or not we think they are justified. We zero in on how to keep such feelings from fooling us into taking a drink. Interestingly, several of the methods already discussed for avoiding a drink have also worked splendidly for getting over the inner discomfort we suffer when angry. For instance, when we begin to simmer inside, it sometimes helps a great deal to take a few bites of something good to eat or a glass of a non-alcoholic beverage. It's also remarkably effective when we begin to get teed off at something to pick up the phone and talk about it to our sponsor or other recovered alcoholics. And it pays to pause and consider whether or not we may be overtired. If so, we found that some rest often dissipates rage. Repeatedly, simply pondering, live and let live, cools our temper, or we may shift quickly to an activity that has nothing to do with the source of our anger, work it off with some lively exercise, lose it in listening to our favorite music. For many
Right
of us,
there, over to Kara. Go ahead, Kara. Thanks,
For
Ron.
many, for many of us, contemplating the idea of the Serenity Prayer blows away our hostility. Often, whatever we are mad about turns out to be something we cannot possibly control or change. Traffic jams, the weather, long supermarket lines, for example. So the sensible, mature thing to do is just accept it rather than boil inside fruitlessly or turn to alcohol. Of course, at times we are resentful of a circumstance in our life that can and should be changed. Maybe we should quit a job and get a better one, or get a divorce, or move the family to a different neighborhood. If so, such a decision needs to be made carefully, not in haste or anger. So we still should cool down first. Then maybe we can give some calm, constructive thought to figuring out whether our resentment is directed at something we can change. To double check this, see the section on the Serenity Prayer, page 18. Sometimes it isn't long resentment we must deal with, but a sudden consuming rage. The 24-hour plan, page 5, and the first things first, page 31, have helped many of us cope with such a rage, although we didn't see how they possibly could until we actually tried them and got surprisingly good results. Another effective remedy for anger is the as if idea. We decide how a mature, truly well-balanced person would ideally handle a resentment like ours, then act as if we were that person. Have a go at it a few times. This works too. And for many of us, so does the professional guidance of a good counselor of some sort, a psychiatrist or other physician, or a clergyman. We can also find an outlet in harmless physical action. The exercise already mentioned, deep breathing, a hot soak, and in private, pounding a chair or a cushion and yelling have all relieved anger for lots of people. Simply repressing, glossing over, or damming up anger rarely seems advisable. Instead, we try to learn not to act on it, but to do something about it. If we don't, we increase enormously our chances of drinking. As laymen who know simply our own experience, we recovered alcoholics have no laboratory knowledge, or scientific theories about these matters. But few people who have ever had a hangover could forget how unreasonably irritable it makes you feel. Sometimes we took it out on family members, fellow workers, friends, or strangers who certainly had not earned our displeasure. That tendency can hang around a while after we start staying sober, the way wraiths of stale smoke do in a closed up bar room, reminding us of drinking days, until we do a good mental house cleaning.
Excellent. So, let's talk about this. I think how you've learned through this program and this group to deal with anger, hostility, violence, either coming your way or going from you outward. So let me see. I'll start with Lisa. So how about you dealing with all of this stuff? What rings a bell here? What have you done?
Hi, Lisa, alcoholic. You know what? I have to tell you, first going through the steps has helped me tremendously, but because it's made me just learn to refocus or give it a second to give myself a second to breathe. And you know, if something's really bothering me and it's really deep seated, I was doing the resentment prayer every night for quite a while there. And that seemed to have hit home. And one day I woke up and I didn't have to do it, or I didn't realize I didn't need it.
Let me stop you
Um,
for a second. Ron, put up the resentment prayer, the link to the page and everything, so people know what Lisa's talking about. Keep going, Lisa, I'm listening.
but I mean, I think just it came to a realization that if I'm not going to change something in my life or react differently, then that is like a choice for me. So if I'm not going to change it, I can't complain about it. I just have to learn to redirect my angers and walk away and give it a few minutes to blow over and say the serenity prayer. I mean, just
Have you
have the
gotten better? Have you gotten
pardon?
better have you gotten better at dealing with anger and resentment since you've been in this group?
I totally have. I had to retrain my brain and it
Mhm.
allowed me to react differently. And once I started reacting differently and not overreacting or not reacting the way people were used to me reacting, I realized that people were treating me differently as well. So um, I just have to learn to count to 10 or walk away, give it time, or don't react first. Don't be
Yeah.
reactive, be proactive on how I want people to
Yeah, we have to
respond.
be, we can't just pray it away. Oh, it'll go away tomorrow. Because if you're in rage, and it's going to come up again and again and again, it's going to show up at work, it's going to show up at home, it's going to show up on the road. Look at all the incidents of road rage. And of course, and we're sober here.
Mhm.
Um, let's go back over to Sarah. So Sarah, how has this group helped you deal with either being a victim of anger and resentment or even acting out yourself?
Um, well, the
Yeah.
program kind of got me through like what my part was in it. Obviously, if you're a victim of domestic violence, you don't have really a fault in it. However, there were red flags. And then as the violence progressed, it ended up with a gun to my head. And if the trigger pulled, it had one bullet in there. And I mean, that was my rock bottom. I should have quit then, but I didn't. Um, but yeah, I had to move and I had to, change my phone number and all the things. And to this day, like if someone comes to my door, I have a panic attack because he used to break my door down. So with me, with violence, I think that I've gotten more calm about not sweating the small stuff, and being like, okay, is this really that big of a deal? Like, come on, I've gone through a lot. I can deal with this type of a thing. So,
Well, yeah, no, okay, there you go. That's what we're talking about. And we have to work on it. Where's Sam? Is he still here or did he leave? I don't see him.
I'm right here.
Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, Sam, unmute.
I'm unmuted.
You're a Marine. You've been
Yes, I
trained
am.
how to deal with violence, not act out or not be a victim of it. How has this meeting helped you with that?
Uh, for me, I mean, obviously, violence is a part of my profession. Um, but it's real about controlled violence. There's a time and place. But I will go off on a tangent, obviously, regarding, McMAP, Marine Martial Arts training. But for my civilian life, my home life, yeah, I used to have a lot of anger issues. I used to not strike people, but I would get the temptation, I would get very impatient with people, people who are close to me, people that I love or,
Mm.
declared that I loved. But this program has not just taught me to be more patient and understanding of other people, especially in regards to, whether they're not doing something I asked them to do multiple times or whatnot. But it's also brought me closer to God in a way that I'm able to pray, meditate, breathe. That's the biggest thing,
Mhm.
breathing. It's gotten me out of my head. It's gotten me out of the situation that's extremely frustrating at times. And in the past, like I said, I would blow up and just whatever happens, happens. Um, yeah, that's violence for me, you know? Yeah, I still do violence, but it's more of a job requirement than anything else.
It's an interesting way to put it too, isn't it? Okay, how about you, Rebecca?
Hi, Rebecca, alcoholic. Yeah, when we were drinking, plates were thrown, doors were kicked in. Uh, just and we were both in rages, and since we stopped drinking, there really is harmony in the house and love. And I can pray things away, and that's for me. I do pray it away. If I come into incidences, and I really hand it over to my higher power, and it works. It works for me, at least.
But, thanks. When I was younger, I just grew up around a lot of, sort of male macho talk. So I didn't know any other way. It was only until I came here. And I did some therapy early on, but if you're doing therapy and you're drinking and taking drugs, it just doesn't work because every time you get wasted, you're going off. And you're like, well, what? I must be crazy. No, you must be an alcoholic. If you quit drinking, you have a chance to stop the behavior. And I think for me, Rebecca, too, it was doing this process that we do in here, such as, which is over there right now, the Freedom from Bondage, page 52, in the chat center, and then praying for people that you have a resentment against, doing that process, also doing the processes that we do here on pages 84, a 10th step, having a look at me, my actions, who do I owe an apology? Do I owe an amend? That will bring you up short because every time you go off on somebody, now you have to make an amend for it. So, in AA, we call it creating inventory. It's like how much inventory, fourth step inventory, do you want to create? So, page 84 is really about that. It has a way for you to process out inner violence, but some people have an enormous amount of inner violence, and other people they are so used to being a victim that that no matter who they're with, they're always marrying somebody that's violent. They think they're really wonderful, and then the person's beating them up. They go from one person to the next, drunk or sober. We see that in AA. And so in this group, we try to address how do I bring that to an end? Hey, Steve, I know you're working 30 years sober. You want to say anything about this? Are you too busy? Well, he's with us, but he's working. How about Mark in Texas, 2 years? You want to say anything about this? What we've been reading? Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba. Is he following along? No. All right. Harry Berto, how about you? You've been following along.
Yeah, as for me, when I went to go live with my dad, you can say I pretty much hit rock bottom because I got real violent. I mean, I started drinking and selling drugs, doing drugs, and it got so bad I even shot at people. And now I don't do that. As soon as I moved back, I stopped being violent and stuff like that. But yeah, now the only thing that kind of gets to me is when my dad comes over and starts yelling or talking smack. But I keep calm though, but I just try not to let it get to me. But
You can turn your camera on. I just made it so people can do that. I'm the same way. I stay away from violent people. I stay away from violent AA meetings. I stay away from AA meetings where people are like getting off on violence. I'm like, I do not want to be around that. I want to be someplace else. Now, I mean, I'll sponsor somebody who has either violent issue or victim issues, but we're going to do the 12-step process on it. I'm not going to sit around and listen to people who get off on being violent, because that happens sometimes too. We think, oh, well, we'll talk about it and then we'll process it out. Not necessarily. We'll talk about it and increase it. Go ahead, Claire. You're up.
Hi, Sierra, alcoholic. Yeah, this was a good reading. I remember the difference between like when I was drinking. There were times when I would act out. Like we had left the whiskey bar, me and my partner, and they were driving, and I was like so out of it. I got physical, but it'd be like I'm not like that when I'm drinking, especially after working the steps. It's really not in my characters. It was something that the alcohol had brought out of me. I don't know the fits of rage, I guess, if we're talking about it in the reading. So, and then it really helped me once I read this now and the first time, like really seeing the different forms that anger can show up as or disguise itself as was
Mhm.
really eye opening. So thank you for letting me share.
All right, no, you're welcome. Perfect. How about Rich? Rich, how about you? You got anything on this? Or are you a mild-mannered, uh, like Superman? Superman was mild-mannered. How does that saying go about Superman? Kent Clark, the mild-mannered, what? What does it say? Hey, come on, Jeff, what's it say?
Mild-mannered reporter.
Uh,
He was a reporter,
I know,
mild-mannered reporter.
Man of Steel, that's it.
Oh, the Man of Steel.
All right.
The
Okay, so
glasses.
nothing
Remember-
from him. Joe, how about you?
I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, that's I forget who it was that said, but that alcohol, it just does something to you. It makes you kind of unpredictable. In fact, my best friend in the that I've ever had, he's a lifer in prison because he got drunk and high and went off and killed his stepdad. And it was just by luck and circumstance that I wasn't with him that night. Um, but yeah, the alcohol and the drugs will just bring something in you. It's like you're definitely not in control, but it's like something else is in control of you. There is no thought process. So as far as dealing with anger and resentment now, it's just a policy of nothing under the sun really matters that much. Even though it does matter, it doesn't matter enough to get worked up over it. Do something else, listen to some music, take a nap. Nothing really matters enough. And I remember back years ago, it was whatever I could use as an excuse to blow off steam and go to the bar and go get some drugs. And all these people were making me drink by frustrating me. And there's just that mentality and getting as far away from that as possible and retraining the way you process people and process situations has changed for me tremendously.
How about you, Carmen? Anything?
Hi, I'm Carmen, alcoholic. Yes, something for me. This meeting and the everything I've learned here has helped me to learn how to remain calm, how to think things through and process, because I wasn't processing when I was drinking. So that's what's the biggest thing. And I think it was Sam that said it's like just take a breath. It helps me to take a breath. Remember my teachings. Remember. Not to handle it the way I used to. And also, I say the serenity prayer all the time. I feel like I finally got it memorized in my head and it helps me a lot.
Perfect. Okay, good. How about you, Ron?
Yes, I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. Yes, what Carmen just said. When I feel myself becoming frustrated or angry, I too stop and say the serenity prayer. It only takes a moment. It gives me time to think things through. Like Joe said as well. Well, as the book describes, I was the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When I was intoxicated, when I was lit up, I was subject to say things that would provoke individuals, not necessarily that I got violent with partners, but I certainly was not a very kind individual to people in behind the counter or I've been so working the 12-step process has allowed me to look at that, and the book describes anger being the luxury of dubious men. Uh, so I try to stay focused. I think prayer and meditation on a daily basis helps me stay focused. Um, Coming to meetings most definitely helps, where it's not necessarily that I have to get my feelings out, but when I hear individuals sharing what it's still like out there and the things that the newcomer is going through, I don't want to go through that anymore. So I try to stay focused in my recovery.
We've been talking about watching out for anger and resentments in this book. It's called Living Sober. Where is it? There it is. Living cat. Never mind. It just shows a cat. I put it up and it shows a cat. That's like not good. Living Sober is the book. And anger and resentment. Um, and violence and being a victim of violence or being a perpetrator. And some people have a very, very hard time of stepping out of it. And oftentimes, those people they're the ones who will, and like Joe was talking about, they will end up in jail or prison or with a restraining order or acting out violently. And it's like, of course, being sober and going to AA really can help bring that down. But you have to do what Lisa was talking about. You have to do a process on violence. How do I stop this anger and resentment? Now, there it is right there, freedom from bondage, page 552 in the big book. That's one. The other one is step 10 on page 84 in the AA Big Book. It gives you a process where you can admit you were wrong. Do I owe an apology to someone? And more importantly, what could I have done differently? And then some of us have just this compulsive obsessive disorder that will go from drinking to yelling and screaming and fighting, and then to the next level, like Sarah mentioned, from pushing to hitting, and then, well, what happens when you hit somebody? It releases the pressure that builds up, and suddenly somebody's hurt. And also, it talks about in here, go and get some help. There are therapists and doctors who focus on ending violence. There's actually a program called Ending Violence, and there's another one called Amends. The courts will take alcoholics and court order men or women to the Amend program, where they teach you how to not be violent. And we have members that come through AA who end up in the court order to the amends program. That's important too. So, and it's one of the things that we don't talk about a great deal in AA. And we mostly here we focus on the solution. How do I resolve this big issue inside of me? But a lot of times it is so uncomfortable to talk about that we don't talk about it at all. And then the AA member, can't get this healed or resolved. And they're going on like, well, I should be okay. I shouldn't be angry all the time, but I am angry all the time. And no one will help me. What is happening? And then, bam, you're in a road rage incident. You're completely sober and now you're in jail. Or you carry a gun in your car and you shoot somebody in a road rage incident and now you're in jail. Happens all the time in AA, and what we don't talk about. Or people act out in other crazy, violent ways. Um, with, family members, and they end up in jail that way, and we don't want to talk about that either. Or we have a proclivity when we have great obsessions and things driving us that will commit other crimes, stealing, cheating, robbing, lying. Can I get away with robbing the 7-Eleven? I'm sober. You don't think people think like that? They do. And let's see, let's go to, hey, Suzanne, so how are you liking today's meeting so far? Oh, here you go, I'll unmute you. You want to say anything or no? One day sober, huh? Okay, well, glad you're here. Who did I miss? Angela, how about you? You have anything you want to say about this? How did you like today's meeting? Jan to Angela.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, Angela, alcoholic. Thank you for the meeting, keeping it safe, and good to see you, sir. Um,
Just call me Jan. Yeah.
yep, I know. Good to see you, Jan. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I use, well, since I've been in the program, I've realized I was a raging alcoholic. I'm usually have been the aggressor. Um, yeah, and done some embarrassing things. I've unfortunately have, like ran out half nude before, under the influence of the alcohol and other party favors. So yeah, and again, taking situations, applying all these principles in my daily life now. Um,
How long are
when I
you
have a
sober
problem,
now?
there's a solution in 2 years.
2 years.
And
Okay, good.
yes, I came to your weekly meetings in the beginning
In the
um,
beginning, like let
of
there be
my
light, you mean?
sobriety.
Yeah.
Yes, in the beginning. Yes. So I'm still here.
Good.
Again,
Okay.
I'm grateful to be here. So thank you for calling on me.
All right. Hey, glad to see you. Thank you. How about you, TNT? You look like you're explosive.
Sure. Okay. I knew you were about to call me. Tiffany, alcoholic. I totally agree with Angela. That was me too. I was the rage. I was the rager. And it took a lot for me to grow out of that. But the only way I was able to was working the steps, especially step 4. And, something that popped in my mind while y'all were reading is I truly believe the reason why today I'm not as reactive is because I know that I am not the director. And, in those times I was reactive and raging and angry is because I wanted to control everything and I couldn't. And it was making me crazy. So thank God for this program. Thanks for letting me share.
Hey, I have a question. So how long are you sober now and where are you calling from? Oh, here I go back to you. So
Let me check the app.
okay.
502 days and I'm calling from Louisiana.
Wow. 502 in LA, Louisiana there.
And
Hey,
thank you so
Jen, I'm
much for this
glad you're
meeting.
here.
This is great.
Well, yeah, good. Welcome aboard. Wow, who didn't talk? Do we get to everybody? So, Rich, did you want to talk? There's Suzanne, you want to talk? How are you feeling there, Suzanne? You don't have to talk about this. I know you only have one day, so come every day for 5 days if you want to, see how you like it. And uh, so here on the instructions in the right-hand side, it says, if you have, this is on 552, if you have a resentment you want to be free of, if you will pray for the person or thing that you resent, you will be free. If you ask in prayer for everything you want for yourself to be given to them, you will be free. Ask for their health, their prosperity, their happiness, and you will be free. Even when you don't really want it for them, and your prayers are only words, and you don't mean it, go ahead and do it anyway. Do it every day. Here it is for 2 weeks, and you will find that you have come to want it for them, and you will realize that where you used to feel bitterness and resentment and hatred, you now feel understanding and compassion. And I think for everybody that I know here, they've this works pretty well. So I think we're done. And do you want to read the promises there, Lisa?
Sure. Okay, the promises. This is starting with the last page of 83, chapter 6, into action in the AA book. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Okay, thank you. There, I'm just fixing his name. And the Serenity